Of all things, Elias remembered the scent of her. It wasn't perfume, but something simpler, earthier. The clean smell of rain on hot pavement, the faint, sweet trace of night-blooming jasmine from the garden below her apartment, and the papery, specific scent of old books. 40 years later, in the sterile quiet of his study, surrounded by his own leather-bound volumes, he could still close his eyes and be transported back to that tiny, cluttered apartment in Rome. It was 1983. He was 22, a scholarship kid from a drab English town, spending a year abroad supposedly studying art history. In reality, he spent most of his time getting lost. He'd wander the city's ancient warren of streets, letting the cobblestones guide him, ending up in sun-drenched piazzas or forgotten corners tourists never saw. He found her bookshop on a drizzly Tuesday afternoon in Trastevere. He was trying to escape a sudden downpour and ducked into the first doorway he saw. It opened with a melancholic chime of a brass bell. The shop was a narrow canyon of books, stacked floor to ceiling, swaying in precarious towers. The air was thick with dust and stories, and in the back, half hidden behind a teetering pillar of yellowing paperbacks, was her. She was bent over a crate of new arrivals, her dark, unruly curls falling over her face. As he stood there, dripping onto the worn floorboards, she looked up. Her eyes were the color of strong coffee, intelligent and direct. And when she smiled, a small, hesitant thing, the dim, dusty room seemed to flood with light. "You are drowning," she said, her voice a low, melodic, Italian-accented English. "You will make the books wet." "Sorry," he stammered, feeling suddenly and utterly foolish. "The rain. I just stepped in." She straightened up, brushing dust from her hands onto her paint-stained smock. She wasn't conventionally beautiful in the way of the glamorous women on the Via Veneto. She was something else entirely. She was real. She was Julia. "Then you must stay until it stops. It is the rule." She gestured around them. "The books, they do not mind the company. They are lonely." He bought a worn English-language copy of a collection of Keats' poems just to have a reason to stay. She wrapped it in brown paper with the care of a mother bundling a child against the cold. The rain didn't stop for hours. They talked. He learned she was 24, that the bookshop had been her nonno's, and she had inherited it 2 years ago when he died. She was a painter, she said, but the shop was her anchor. It kept her from floating away. For Elias, the rest of Rome faded. The Colosseum, the Vatican, the Sistine Chapel. They became mere backdrops to the only destination that mattered, the little bookshop in Trastevere. He'd go every day. He'd sit in a worn armchair by the window, pretending to read, but really watching her. He'd watch the way her brow furrowed in concentration as she cataloged a new find, the way she'd laugh, a sound like bells, when an old, eccentric customer would tell her a wild story, the way she'd absent-mindedly tuck a curl behind her ear, leaving a smudge of dust on her cheek. One afternoon, he found the courage to ask her to show him the real Rome. Her smile was slow and radiant. "There is no real Rome," she said. "Only my Rome." And so began the most perfect month of his life. Her Rome was not in the guidebooks. It was a tiny, hole-in-the-wall trattoria where the pasta was made by a woman named Signora Rosa, who pinched Elias's cheek and called him Caro. It was a hidden courtyard behind a church, covered in ivy, where she said lovers had met in secret for centuries. It was a walk along the Tiber at sunset, the city's warm stone turning to gold and then to amber. It was climbing to the top of the Gianicolo hill at dawn, the whole city spread out before them like a dream, and her hand, small and warm, slipping into his.